I'm going to show you how to connect Gmail to SigParser to Google Sheets. We're going to capture every piece of contact data into a Google Sheet. You don't have to have any programming experience. We're going to use a tool called Integromat. Super easy to use. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step we need to do is we're going to use a tool called Integromat. So what we're going to have to do is come to sigparser.com, and then we're going to go down the page and we're going to click the Integromat link right here. If we click this, this will take us to the page for Integromat for SigParser for the integration. We'll need to click Add to My Inventory to add this to your Integromat set of apps that you can use. So we'll search for Google Sheets just to add that to our thing, and then we'll search for Gmail, and then we'll go ahead and click Continue. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick Gmail as the source, so we're going to watch for new emails, and then we're going to choose the inbox for the folder, and then the criteria will be all emails, and we'll just fetch one at a time for testing. We'll go ahead and click OK, and then we'll select the first email. So here's the example of an email with a full signature in it. You notice we have name, title, cell, office, address. So we're going to parse all of those out with SigParser. So we'll type SigParser here. And then for email subject, we'll start mapping in all of these fields. For this part, we're going to pick both plain HTML and plain text. And then we'll choose email date, and then we'll click OK. And now we're going to map this to, actually we don't want to do Excel, we actually want to do Google Sheets. So we're going to select a row. We're going to make it so we first find if the row exists in the Google Sheet, and if the row doesn't exist, we're going to create it. If it does exist, then we're going to update it. So first we need to do select row. So we're going to say select row, and then we need to add a connection here. Here I've defined a spreadsheet in Google Sheets that has these columns: first name, last name, email, title, office phone, mobile phone, fax. So what I can do is every time that I see a new email, I want to populate this Google Sheet. And I can pick that Google Sheet in my in Integromat here. And I want to use sheet 1, any order by or sort direction. And this is the select operator. What we're going to have to do is click the continue the execution of the route even if the module returns no results. This is very important because what we're going to do is we're going to look up the row. If the row doesn't exist, we still need to make sure it continues through this flow. Then we're going to say, okay, for filtering email, now the way you figure this out is you've got these columns here that Integromat has auto-discovered. You can see it discovered a field called email. So we want to look up the contact to see if it exists in the spreadsheet by email. And so it's the lowercase email here. So if email is equal to, and then put the double quote, and then from email address, this is coming from SigParser, and then a double quote here. This is the search pattern. If you go to the help section, you can see more details about how the search pattern works. But if you just go ahead and click OK, we're going to add the next step. So the next step we want to add is going to be a flow control, and it's going to specifically, it's going to be a router. So we're going to add a router, and we're basically going to do branching logic on this to say if there's no row coming back from the spreadsheet, so in this case, if we don't get a row back, then we're going to set it equal to, actually, no, we're going to say if there's no row ID coming back, then we need to create it. So row does not exist. And then we're going to do the opposite here. So row exists. And the condition is going to be on ID again. And it's going to say if it exists. So if the row exists, we want to update. If the row does not exist, we want to create it. So we'll go ahead and click Google Sheets here. And in this case, we will do add a row. So we'll click add row here. And then what we'll do is we'll map all the fields coming from SigParser into this new spreadsheet row. So we'll do first name. I'll just map these real quick. And so that's all the fields mapped. You will notice there are other fields that I can pick from SigParser, like LinkedIn URL, Twitter URL, is the contact likely spam, street address. I didn't map these in, but you can. All right, so now let's go ahead and do the update row part. So very similar. All right, so when we're ready to fill in the update part of the update row action, we are going to do something a little different than we did for the add row action. In this case, we need to make sure that we preserve the values that are already in the fields if we don't receive a value from SigParser. So for example, let's say someone sends you an email and it doesn't have their full signature in it. They didn't put one of their phone numbers, they didn't put maybe a fax number or something, and so we didn't get that from the signature, but the spreadsheet still has that data in it. We want to keep the data in the spreadsheet unless we have something better to override it with. So what we've done here is we're going to use these functions called if empty, and then you put the next value in here, you put a semicolon, not a comma, and then you put the next value and then a curly brace. So I'm gonna actually redo this so you can see me do it. So there's a thing in here, if you go to Integromat, if you go to if empty, there's these general functions. This will act like a coalesce operator if you're familiar with SQL. And so you can pick a column that you want to check if it's empty. If it's not empty, it's going to use that value. If it is empty, it's going to use the next value. So here we want to say first name from SigParser, and then if that is empty, then we want to use the first name that's in the spreadsheet. And so now we're saying if first name has a value, use that. If not, then use the first name in the spreadsheet. And so I've mapped the rest of these columns here. Just make sure that the last column that you do is going to be row ID. So make sure that you fill in row ID from Google Sheets. If you don't do that, it won't be able to update the row. It won't let you save this either. So you got to make sure you map row ID in here from Google Sheets. And then just go ahead and click OK. All right, so now I think we're ready to test our flow. So let's go ahead and click Run Once. And if you've already tried to run it, it might not work. So what you'll have to do is you have to click the choose where to start, and you'll have to choose your starting email again. So you pick the email. This one has a full signature in it, so we'll go ahead and run it once. I don't have anything in the sheet, so it should create a row. So if we come over here, we'll actually see that it created a row in here. All right, so as we can see, the office phone is blanked out now. So I'm going to tell Integromat to run once, and you're going to see it go through the flow, and it should update the sheet. And if we come back over here, you'll see the office phone is now filled in. So that's how you set up the integration between Gmail, SigParser, and Excel. If you have any questions, please let me know, and you can sign up for a free trial of SigParser today.